Haven't even done anything yet. Good morning. He is risen. Oh my gosh, today is a big day. It's a big day. We're celebrating the greatest thing that ever happened in the history of the world, all over the globe, all over this planet. Countries, communities, and cities are saturated with the truth from gospel-believing churches that Jesus is alive. Millions will place their faith in Christ today. Millions will rededicate themselves to Jesus. Millions will be baptized. And we'll see once again that God is on the move. In fact, today is such a big day that if you were to be completely stirred as you have been by this incredible music and by my amazing sermon that you're about to hear, and you just want to go and rejoice, you'd want to go to In-N-Out Burger. And you'd want to get a double animal style and side of animal fries. But if you were to do that today, because you're so moved by the Spirit, this is what you would see. Happy Resurrection Day. They're closed. They're closed. We're closed this Sunday so our associates can celebrate the resurrection with their families. Happy Resurrection Day, Grace Bible Church. I normally don't like In-N-Out Burger. I don't appreciate what they do there. But because of the resurrection sign and the testimony to our city, I am willing, as an act of worship and service and leadership to this city, to begin to eat In-N-Out Burgers again. I'm willing. It's the kind of leader that I am. What a testimony this is. In 1 Corinthians 15:14, Paul makes the claim of how big a deal today is. He says, if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is in vain. We all might as well just go home and do nothing. In fact, he even says we're most to be pitied if the tomb is still occupied. As believers in Jesus Christ, we place all of our eggs in this proverbial Easter basket. We don't have a faith without it. That's why with conviction we proclaim on this day, and we should every day, that Jesus is alive. He did rise. And the evidence inside the Bible and inside of history, it's overwhelming. Dr. Paul Meyer, a prominent professor of ancient history, said, no shred of evidence has yet been discovered in literary sources, epigraphy, or archaeology that would disprove that the tomb in which Jesus was buried was actually empty on that very first Easter. Dr. Simon Greenleaf, a very famous Harvard University professor of law, according to the laws of legal evidence used in courts of law, there's more evidence for the historical fact of the resurrection of Jesus Christ than for just about any other event in history. Henry Morris, the bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead is the crowning proof of Christianity. If the resurrection did not take place, then Christianity is a false religion. But if it did take place, then Christ is God, and the Christian faith is absolute truth that demands our attention. Jesus did rise from the dead. The implications are profound, and the possibilities for those who believe in that truth applied to them are limitless. All of a sudden, impossible things become possible. I want to talk about that this morning. I want to tell you two stories this Easter Sunday. Both stories happened on Easter Sunday. Both stories tell a tale of grace and human transformation. In both stories, the circumstances were grim, but Jesus did something no one expected, and the people involved in both of these stories will never be the same again. The first story happened on a country road between Jerusalem and a town called Emmaus in Luke chapter 24. The other happened right here on the Central Coast, right here at Grace Bible Church. The first story is about a guy named Cleopas. The other is about a young woman named Savannah. One will compel you, the other will inspire you, and I hope leave us changed today. I want to tell the first story first. It's in Luke chapter 24, beginning in verse 1. There are three phrases we're going to see in this story that I want to highlight because I think they set context for the power of the resurrection. We see in Luke 24, beginning in verse 1, but on the first day of the week, At early dawn, they went to the tomb, taking the spices that they had prepared. And they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. But when they went in, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. And while they were perplexed about this, behold, two men stood by them in dazzling apparel. These are two angels. And as they were frightened and bowed their faces to the ground, the angels said to them, "Why do you seek the living among the dead?" In this famous phrase, "He is not here, but has risen." A pair of angels declare to a bunch of ladies that Jesus is not here, and sets in motion a testimony that has changed all our lives for those who believe in Jesus this morning. Look with me at verse 13 for the first of these three phrases I want to focus on because I think they're compelling. It says in Luke 24:13, that very day, two of them, of the disciples, were going to the village of Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were talking with each other about all these things, the things being Jesus, the things being his trials, the things being him crucified and buried, all that happened. While they were talking and discussing together, get this, Jesus himself drew near and went with them. The phrase I want to focus on of the three is this phrase, that very day. It's interesting to me that on the very day Jesus defeated death, he set our faith in motion, a faith that does not exist without it. He goes to this country road as these disappointed and sad disciples are leaving Jerusalem, frustrated and heading home to Emmaus. And he makes a beeline for them. He wants to talk with them. He wants to help them. Now, if you were Jesus and you had just conquered death forever, where would you go first? Maybe you'd go to the temple and say, "Hey, Pharisees, you got this whole thing wrong. I am the Messiah. I have come back from the dead." Maybe you'd go see your mommy because she watched you die. Maybe it would comfort her to know that you're okay, that you're alive, just like you said. Maybe to the disciples, maybe you'd run there first. "Hey guys, remember what I said? It's happening." He would meet with all those people. The first place he goes is to a guy named Cleopas and his friend going home sad. Pick it up in verse 16. But their eyes, these two men, were kept from recognizing Jesus. And he said to them, "What is this conversation that you are holding with each other as you walk?" They stood still, looking sad. And one of them, named Cleopas, everybody say Cleopas. He answered Jesus and he said, "Are you the only visitor to Jerusalem who does not know the things that have happened there in these days?" Translation, where have you been? Who are you? And he said to them, hilariously, Jesus, again, this is Jesus. They don't know it's Jesus, but it's Jesus. And he says, "What things?" I mean, he is the thing. It's about him. What things? And they said to him concerning Jesus of Nazareth, a man who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and rulers delivered him up to be condemned to death and crucified him. You can sense the sadness in their testimony, the frustration, the disappointment. After Jesus rose from the dead, he went and found Cleopas and his friend. Bears the truth that Jesus, because of the resurrection, is coming to save people. He's coming like a heat-seeking missile to save people who are lost in sin, to save people who are sad and discouraged, who are disappointed and frustrated. We don't go looking for him. The Bible describes that Jesus comes looking for us. We just sung the song, Made for More. I wasn't made to be tending a grave. I was called by name. By Jason, by Andrea, by John, by Monica, by Tim, called by name, born and raised back to life again. I was made for more. Luke 24, verse 13, on that very day, propels us to believe and sense that Jesus is moving to and fro in the world, looking for those he can save, who will listen, who will believe, who can be brought back to life again, by name. Remember Zacchaeus in Luke chapter 19, this wee little tax collector? He was rich. Everybody hates Zacchaeus. He's a sinner. He's robbing the people of their fortune by working on behalf of Rome. They hate his guts. But he hears about Jesus and he wants to see, he wants to catch a glimpse. He knows he can't be in the crowd because they'll probably beat him up or they'll probably jeer at him. And Jesus, of course, won't want to see him. But he wants to catch a glimpse. And so he moves in front of the entourage, climbs up a sycamore tree, and hides there just so he can see. And what does Jesus do? Like he's done for all of us. Hey, Zacchaeus! Probably stunned them. Hurry, come down, Jesus said, for I must stay at your house today. I'm coming to your house, Zacchaeus. And from this story, we get this beautiful depiction of Jesus saying, today, Zacchaeus, salvation has come to your house, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. And he came for me when I was in high school. Through a challenging time in my family's story, we were all heartbroken and sad and scared, and Jesus, like a heat-seeking missile, came to our home at 4501 East Joan d'Arc Avenue, and he changed all our lives. I hope today he's going to change someone this morning, because on that very day, he went racing to give truth and clarity to a disappointed man named Cleopas and his friend. Can I tell you about a man named Barik? They changed his name to protect him, but he lives in a very closed, extreme Muslim country. He's about to join a militia to intimidate and threaten nominal Muslims to become extreme or die. And before that enlistment, the next morning, guess what Barik has? He has a dream. And there's a man in white clothes who invited him to follow that man. Barik says that he was so nice and peaceful. His eyes were like fire. And I realized, this is Jesus. He says, Jesus didn't order me to follow him. He simply invited me. I wasn't used to that at all. In my country, people tell you what to do, and if you don't listen, they beat you. Jesus was already showing me he was radically different. And in a series of successive dreams, the man in white introduced himself, and now Barik is not in some militia. He's a follower of Christ who lives in that same country, testifying to those who will listen at the threat of his own life what Jesus, the man in white, did for him. He's on the move. The resurrection propels Jesus to be a life changer. Thousands of people in this part of the world are giving this same testimony, a visit from the man in white. My brothers and sisters and friends, the momentum of the resurrection has never stopped. He is still destroying the powers of death every day in every place, drawing people by name into faith. Here's how I want to say it. The resurrection is the kickoff of a rescue mission. Imagine the stone being rolled away, and Jesus, like a rocket, is racing to save those who will believe. Maybe there's someone here he wants to save this morning by name. You being here is not an accident. He found me, found you, and I pray he finds more, maybe even today. Let's look at phrase number 2. Let's look at verse 21 of Luke chapter 24. The conversation continues. They were speaking to Jesus, and they said, but we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things happened. The second phrase I want to focus on is this phrase, but we had hoped. But we had hoped. Inherent in that phrase is we had an expectation of how things would go. It didn't go that way. Can anybody relate to things you thought would be this, turned out to be that? You wanted oranges, you got apples, you thought it was going this direction and went that way. Curveballs, that marriage didn't work out like you thought. Kids that are struggling or don't believe, your body not cooperating with what you needed to do for you. This is not what I signed up for. We had hoped for a great this. We had hoped for kids who believed. We had hoped for financial provision. We had hoped for healing. They wanted Jesus to dethrone Rome and put Israel back on top. They've been slaves for so long. It was a normal and natural desire. But these two men, Cleopas and his friend, who tried as best they could to follow Jesus, are in Jerusalem thinking, it's time. He's on the donkey. Here comes our Messiah. Wave the palm branches. We're here. It's going to happen. And then he dies. Well, I didn't see that coming. That guy who they're carrying off the cross dead was supposed to change all our lives. Maybe your hope is a bit frayed and shattered today. Maybe you came to church because I probably should go, but your heart is broken. You're sad. The Rome in your life has not been dethroned, and you wonder why Jesus won't take care of it for you. Maybe you're frustrated. Jesus bursts forth from the grave to come to you to say, God is not done yet. He's not done with you. He's never finished. In fact, how I want to say it is the resurrection of Jesus is the power behind your comeback story. And I've got a whopper of a comeback story to tell you in just a few minutes. The resurrection is my comeback. It's my profession because He's alive. Knowing He's alive changes everything. That even though I've got Rome in charge of my life still and I don't want it there, and I've got all this anger and frustration and disappointment and sadness, I'm going to trust God because His Word says to me that all things work together for good. To those who love God and called to His purpose. Maybe you're being made strong. Maybe you're being taken to a deeper place so you can trust and minister to somebody else. But God's doing something. He didn't stop working just because things didn't work out like you wanted them to. All things work together for good. In the Greek, the term all things means everything. The stuff you did, the stuff done to you, the things you can't control, the things you can control, all things, they're working towards something. God is working. So the first phrase is, that very day, Jesus went looking to save people. The resurrection is a rescue mission. But we had hoped, even though our hope says we are shared them, we're dashed. The resurrection is the power behind a comeback story that God is going to tell, and it's going to be beautiful. Bigger and better than you could have imagined. Phrase number 3 we'll find as we begin the conversation back in verse 25. The conversation continues. Jesus said to them, these two men, O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe all the prophets have spoken, was it not necessary that the Christ should suffer these things, enter into His glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, He interpreted to them in all the Scriptures the things concerning Himself. To the Bible Jesus goes, and He points all of it to Him. They still don't know who He is yet, by the way. So if they drew near to the village in which they were going, He, Jesus, acted as if He were going further. But they urged Him strongly, saying, stay with us, for it is toward evening. The day is now far spent. So He went in with them. And when He was at the table with them, listen to this, He took bread, He blessed it, and He broke it and gave it to them, which we've seen this before. The taking of the bread, the breaking, the blessing. Cleopas and his friend heard about this night. And their eyes were opened, and they recognized him and went, smacking his friend, that's Jesus. And the moment they recognized him, it says, he vanished from their sight. Gone. No time for all the questions or do a miracle or turn the pizza into something we can eat or do something cool. Gone. Gone. And then we read these words. They said to each other after he left them, did not our hearts burn within us? Well, he talked to us on the road. And hear this, while he opened to us the Scriptures. Phrase number 3, did not our hearts burn within us? I mean, he's gone. Friend goes to Cleopas and says, when he was talking, your heart was racing like mine, right? He's like, oh, yeah, it was. I mean, he spoke like no one ever spoke. And that was him, and of course it was. And what did Jesus do to reignite their faith, to relight them? Bunch of miracles? Try to impress them? Walk on water? Fly off a building? Preach an amazing sermon that no one ever heard but them? He just opened the Word. He told them stories from the Bible. Probably going back to Abraham, Moses in the Red Sea, Deuteronomy and legacy faith building. Probably talked about Daniel, Jeremiah, Lamentations, the nations. Talked about the suffering servant in Isaiah 53, pierced for our transgressions, by his stripes we're healed. He just told the stories, the same stories we have. The same ones. Their hearts, they just were lit up. You know, Cleopas and his friend had made the conclusion that it's over for us. You know, we followed this Jesus character and thought we were going to be like generals in the new army and we're going to tell Rome what to do. And all of a sudden, he's dead. And they said, it's it. We're slaves again. It's over for us. It's just a matter of time before they come and kill us. You might be sitting here today and you think, my circumstances can never change. This will never work out. It's over for me. There's nothing left. There's nothing left to build on. And that would be a lie from the pit of hell. Because the resurrection, the empty tomb, is a declaration not only that there's a rescue mission that has just been inaugurated, that he's coming to save people by name on that very day and every day since. And we had hoped, but now our hopes dashed are nothing more than a fodder for a comeback story, and now our hearts are burning within us. I want to say it like this, that may the resurrection, this is a prayer I have for all of us, may the resurrection give all of us spiritual heartburn. I mean, eat your ham and your chicken today and the scalloped potatoes, and I'm getting hungry. I can't even talk, I'm so hungry. Oh my gosh. But save some space in that heart for some spiritual heartburn. Ask God to set your heart on fire. Because can I just declare that God is alive and well and working in this world? Pastor Ben mentioned the Ohio State football team last week. Some Ohio State football players got set on fire for Jesus, and they ran wild throughout their campus proclaiming the gospel and what Christ did for them. And hundreds got saved, and hundreds got baptized just a couple of months ago. Because some football players said, we love Jesus. We want the whole world to know it. That's heart set on fire. The Boise State head football coach, a man named Spencer Danielson, where my daughter goes to college, they won the Mountain West Championship. They made it into the college football playoff. Reporters like, what's it like, coach, to take Boise State to the college football playoff and be champs of this conference? And Coach Spencer said, yeah, we won, but the true champion is Jesus Christ, who died and rose again on the third day. He said to a national audience. A revival has broken out on that football team and in that campus. Why? Because someone got their heart set on fire by God and His Word. God is on the move. The streets of Africa, I saw a video of some people marching, hundreds carrying signs saying, Jesus is King. People walking through Damascus in Syria at the threat of their lives, a place where you don't want to be super public about your faith, carrying crosses in defiance of persecution because they wanted those people to know Jesus is more powerful than this persecution, and they didn't care about their lives. Hearts set on fire. There are people here that you know Jesus. We probably won't see you next Sunday because you probably have other things to do. And I want to invite you to think about something with me. Maybe Jesus brought you here today to begin to fan a flame for Him in your heart. And He wants to open the Scriptures to you. And can I say every Sunday at Grace Bible Church at 9 and 11, we open the Word. God, what do you want to say to us? This broken, incomplete, trying to figure it out community, people living with regrets, living with struggles, living with each other. I want to pastor a church. I want to live in a city where there are people who don't just say they're Christians, but their hearts are on fire for Christ. He becomes their number one. He is the one we seek. There's nothing more important. There's no position. There's no amount of wealth or pleasure or material possession to come in lieu of just wanting to know Him. So on that very day, Jesus came looking for you. He's found a lot of us. But if you're yet to be among the found, hear this. Jesus is calling you today by name to come to Him. For God so loved the world, He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes may not perish but have everlasting life. Doesn't mean you show up to church every week. Doesn't mean you do this or do that. It just means you believe. You have faith that Jesus did what He said He would do. And He did. Will you say yes? If you're here and your hopes are dashed like theirs were, is there a piece of your heart that can say, God, I trust You for what's next? I'm open to whatever You want. I will not give in to despair. And I'm ready to partner with You, Lord Jesus Christ, in authoring my comeback story starting now. And I got a doozy to share with you in a second. And if you know all the things I've been sharing with you you know this text better than I do, and your prayer is, Jesus, set my heart on fire. I don't want to be numb, nominal, in and out, casual, foot in church, foot in the world, doing this thing, not serious about it. Maybe today's the day. Maybe this Easter is the day when Jesus says, it's time for you to change. Say no to some things so you can say yes to having your heart set on fire. That's story number one. It's now time for our second story. It brings to life all the elements of the first story. It also happened on Easter Sunday. It was the birth of hope in this woman's heart, facing unbelievable odds, and her heart set on fire by Jesus. Watch this and have your mind blown. Before I give you some closing thoughts, can you thank these people up here for how hard they've worked to do this? Thank you, guys. And these worship experiences we have, Ash Wednesday, Good Friday, this morning, they're birthed in the prayers and devotion of Galen Dang and Tim Newell. Would you thank them especially for what they do? Appreciate you guys. Thank you. So we hail King Jesus. He's got something to say. Since He's rolled that stone away, He's been racing around this world, rescuing, redeeming sadness and frustration for those who've declared It wasn't supposed to be like this. And he's come, in spite of all the hardships, to put a spark in your heart and set your heart on fire. When he was speaking, didn't your heart burn within you? And I pray that there's a burning in us, in all of us. There are people here that need to come to Christ. You need to say yes today. There are people here who need to recommit, to re-up, to say, I've heard the Jesus thing for a long time, and I've done the Christmas and Easter thing, but I've never had my heart set on fire. I want that. I want to counteract the sadness and the frustration with a passion for God, to know him. You can know him by joining a bunch of humans, as Savannah said in her testimony. We'd love to be your humans who bring you to restoration as you work in our hearts to bring us to restoration as well. This community of believers is here to build something that only God can do. It's a movement of people learning to live and love like Jesus. So come. We'll be here next week, begin a series called The Zoe Road, and talk about the life that Jesus came out of that grave to give us every day. And I can't wait for that series to begin. Every week we end in blessing. So we slap our hands together because we're so excited. It happened to Luke 24. Jesus raised his hands and blessed as they parted, and so we do the same in the spirit of that invitation. So I want to ask you to put your hands together for a blessing on the count of 3. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes, I bless you with this truth. That you would decide, that you would say yes, that you would come back, that God would inspire you to say no to some things, to say yes to some other things. God would bring you into a place in his word and in fellowship with others where you may know a testimony like Savannah's from the floors of a psychiatric hospital to a testimony of the power of Jesus. May you know that power. May your family know it. May the world know it. Because God is moving, and may he move through all of us and through you to bring you from sadness and disappointment and frustration to burning, to know him more deeply, because he's alive. Pack that blessing up, put it in your heart. Church, he is risen. God bless you. Have a great Easter. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.